got to get strong. You got to get long, got to get agile. All those things are physical. But in order to do any of them, you need the mental development to know that you need to do them. And you need the mental resiliency to do it when it's uncomfortable. That's what I'm talking about. And then you need to not break down mentally as a result of something being hard that takes a long time.
Let's rock. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Pure Ambition Podcast. Today, we are graced by the presence of my good friend, Dr. Sean Pastuch. Dr. Sean is the CEO and founder of Active Life, which is an organization bridging the gap between fitness and healthcare. He and his team are empowering people to live life on their own terms without compromising their values, vision, or the pursuits. Through education, exercise, and mentorship, Dr. Sean has been able to help thousands of people take back their health and their lives. In this episode, Dr. Sean breaks down why we need to change our relationship with pain in order to heal, how to change the story we're telling ourselves that is ultimately holding us back from our full potential, and the keys to building a resilient mind and body in order to live an empowered life. Dr. Sean is a straight shooter. He's real, he's authentic, he's genuine, he's high energy. Really enjoyed my time with him. There's a ton of great takeaways in here. I learned so much from him, and I know there's a ton that you guys are going to take away as well. If you guys enjoy the show, the best thing you can do to help us reach our mission to inspire and empower 100 million people is to simply leave a rating and review. It takes 2 seconds. I would really appreciate it. And again, it helps us reach more people and ultimately get to our mission of 100 million. Love you guys. Now let's dive into it with Dr. Sean Pastuch.
I started watching like Mr. Beast stuff. Because I'm like, he started at $100 budget. Now he's at $2.5 million per video. What can we do without a $2.5 million per video budget that we can learn from him? And so we started with, we can separate ourselves by having a studio, like have a room, have an aesthetic. So we did.
So I like how you said we can separate ourselves. You are somebody studying your content, seeing the work that you do, listening to the conversations you have. You don't do things in a traditional way. Everything that you do seems to be like, how can I stand out? Because that's also how actual change is made and how real progress is made, is by going against the grain. So has that been always something that has been like ingrained in you, is like, how do I stand out? How do I do things differently?
Part of it is actually a character flaw of mine. I have some pride of authorship stuff and a rugged individualist streak that is, sometimes it serves me really well and sometimes it does not serve me really well. And so I can remember all the way back to like 5th grade, just knowing that I never wanted to do it somebody else's way, even if their way was good. It was, they haven't thought of this. It wasn't until, frankly, within the last 2 years or so that I learned, if you learn their way first, you can siphon all of the good from it. And then you can iterate and do the better with your own twist. But you can't do better unless you understand good first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
And so for me, I always saw flaws in the system. And so it really started for me when I was working as a personal trainer at Equinox, taking clients up to the physical therapy suite and asking, what do I do with this guy? His shoulder's a problem, his knees are a problem, his back's a problem. They're like, oh, I'll work around it. Oh, he's too old for it. I'm like, oh, well, physical therapy sucks. So I'm going to be a trainer who's better than physical therapists. Then I went to chiropractic school and it was like, oh, this hip is higher than that hip. Adjust this bone, that bone. Like, well, this sucks. I'm going to be better than them too. Got soft tissue techniques. And I was like, I got really good at soft tissue stuff. But then it was, oh, every problem is a soft tissue problem. Just an adhesion problem. Like, well, that's not true. So I'm going to be better than that too. And it was, I always found the flaw fairly quickly and then moved very quick to do the next thing. And so I think I stand out as a result of naturally looking for what the hole in the marketplace is. And recently I feel like we've finally found our groove. It might seem like we found our groove a long time ago, but I think we've finally found our groove at understanding who we serve, how we serve them, why, all of those things.
Okay, so you've collected all of these tools over the years, being a personal trainer and then a chiropractor and then physical therapy. And then so you've kind of integrated all this into now your own unique approach, which is Active Life. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what exactly is Active Life and how do you guys do things differently?
We look at Active Life as an industry that's adjacent to fitness or healthcare, that is meant for people who refuse to compromise on the kind of life that they're going to live. So our mission statement is live a life of freedom without compromise. We as a company empower a life of freedom without compromise. So what Active Life is it's a company that helps people to live life on their own terms without compromising on their values, their vision, the way that they want to be considered when they think about themselves, who they have relationships with, what they're able to achieve. We solve for all of that. Sometimes we solve for those things by making referrals to other people who solve for the most specific part of the thing that we don't solve for. So if you said to me, Sean, I want to be the best content creator in the world, I would say, I'm really happy you came to Active Life, Dom. We do not have the skill set to teach you how to do that.
Damn it, I gotta leave.
But I have a friend, Chase Tuning, who does a great job. I'd like to introduce you to Chase, and Chase can start to build your acumen and then make whatever introductions you need to make from there. So Active Life has now served Dom. We are world class at being agnostic as to who gets paid for your success.
Okay, I like that. I also love you mentioned in a podcast how you said you look at you guys as buyers,
Mhm.
and most physical therapy places, most personal trainers, people in the space are sellers. Like
Mhm.
they're trying to sell everything. And me, I started as a personal trainer and got nutrition coaching certifications. Like that was what I wanted to do too. And it was like people would ask me like, who do you serve? Like who's your niche? And I'd be like, "Well, like anybody." I'm like, I'll literally take anybody right now. And then it got
Mhm.
me into like I'm literally like, I'll train you for free or I'll coach you for free. And you quickly realize like, oh, maybe like this isn't the person for me.
But you have to do that early.
You have to,
You have to say yes
for
to
sure.
everybody early on.
For sure. But how when was that change for you where you went from, okay, let me just serve everybody to get some testimonials, get some credibility, build a business to now you could be more strategic about the people that you actually were taking on to work with?
The instant that I realized it was the fastest way to grow. The thing is, the thing that we do, so we are agnostic to who gets paid for your success. But when we are the people who should be helping you with your success, we do it at a world class level. We help people through education, exercise, and mentorship to live their lives of freedom without compromise. Most people have an internal dialogue when they go to the gym or when they go on a run or when they take off their shirt at the beach or whatever have you. I'm fascinated to interview you after this because I want to hear about what life is like after a heart attack at 24 years old, right? So I imagine that there are people who are far less resilient than you who compromise now for the rest of their lives. You are inspiring to me because you refuse to compromise. You're like, well, yeah, that happened. And now, so I'm still going to be active. I'm still going to go to Running Man. I'm still going to create content. In fact, I'm going to do it at a bigger level. That's inspiring to me. And those are the kinds of people who we work with at Active Life, whether they're hurt or not. When it comes to why did we start to think about the being a buyer of your problems instead of being a seller of our solutions, it's really stressful to try to sell everybody something. It's stressful to have somebody come your way and be like, I have to sell this person. Our business depends on it. And there's something very liberating about not having that in your brain at all when you go into a conversation with somebody. It allows for a lot more transparency and vulnerability in the content. It allows for an authenticity that people are not used to. And so when you're able to do that, you actually attract the people you want to serve at a much higher rate. And when you're attracting the people that you want to serve, they're already bought in before they get to the call. And you only take them if you believe that you can genuinely solve the problem that they're coming to you for and the one that they don't even know that they have yet without charging them anything extra for it. When you're thinking from that mindset, someone who comes into you is no longer someone who I need to get the money from. So I'm thinking about all the different ways to overcome their objections. I'm thinking about what happens to this person if they don't get the help that they need. Because if this person doesn't get the help that they need, I know what their life looks like. I'm now the person responsible for that. So I'm going to help them buy, or I'm going to help them buy from the person I'm going to refer them to.
Do you think this buyer versus seller mentality that you have as a business owner, do you think a person can adopt that when thinking about their own health?
When thinking about their own health, how?
So I think people look at they're buying help, right? Like
Mhm.
they're coming to you, like they're essentially shopping for
I see.
a solution, right? Versus like seeing themselves as like a almost like a hopeless buyer versus like
A filter.
a filter, right? Exactly. Do you kind of get what I'm saying
I
there?
do.
Okay.
So here's what happened. I think people are already doing that.
Mm.
The thing is that they're doing it with too little intention. And so the way I like to think about this is we're sifting for the people who we would want to serve if we had room for one more client. That's it. And if we can't talk you out of being our client, then we're going to help you become one. I think that people too often go into a conversation with their poker cards facing them instead of facing out. And what happens is we're meant to be collaborative. You're coming to me so that I can help you solve a problem. I have to teach you how to solve that problem forever so that you don't need me to be in your corner forever. You might want me there and I'm happy to stay there, but it should be because you want it, not because you need it. And if I was going to teach you how to play poker, I wouldn't do it with the cards hidden from you. So when people come into a sales or a buying conversation, there are two conversations happening at the same time, really three if you count both people. The one everyone knows is happening and the one no one knows is happening. And the one no one knows is happening is typically the person who's selling has things that they don't want you to know about themselves, their company, their process, their pricing, their history, whatever, because they believe it's going to make you less likely to want to buy from them. You, the buyer, have things that you are testing the seller for. Let me ask him this question, see if he responds so I can see if he's telling the truth or not. All of the, right? And you don't tell the seller, I just don't know if you're telling me the truth or not. So here are my questions. I like to play poker with the cards up. I'll tell people, you might not want to work with me, and I want to tell you why. Because here's what happens. If I tell them that, if I tell people I failed in 8 businesses until I became successful in two, um, we've had very lean months. We've lost almost $1 million or invested, depending on how you look at it, into active life over the last 2.5 years. I'm going to teach you how to make a living. You might not want to work with me because in the last 2 years, I haven't been profitable. I've been in building mode. But you need to know that so that there's no secrets and so that you can decide for yourself if I'm a person you want to learn from. And the reason why I like to do that is because I like people to know all of the skeletons in my closet. It makes me completely, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm untouchable. There's no secret that someone's going to pull out and be like, this, if I knew this about you, I never would have done it. I tell people all the reasons that they might not want to work with me so that they can see everything and decide I want it anyway. I think that buyers should do the same thing. So for example, if you're going to see a doctor, I tell doctors before I even come in for an appointment, I need you to know this about me. I don't want to take medication. So I will do it if you're telling me I need something exogenous until I can develop something endogenous. But it's only for that purpose. I believe my cholesterol can go up to 6 or 700 without being a problem. So you're not going to medicate me or get me to change my lifestyle habits to get it below 200. I think eating red meat, well sourced, is something that's good for me. And I'm not really interested in your opinion on it. If you're down to help me craft a lifestyle that serves the kind of life I want to live, I want to come see you as a doctor. If you want to impress upon me your values as it pertains to those things, I don't. That's doing that as a buyer.
That is an insane way to reframe the way that you're looking for help, right? Because
Mhm.
we're not shopping for we're not we're shopping for like a solution to a problem, right? And most of the time for the people that you work with, that is pain also too. So what do you think that What do you think that breaking point is for people to when they finally reach out to you, when they finally come to you and say like, "Hey, I'm shopping. I'm trying to buy
Mhm,
this solution to a problem. My problem is pain."
mhm.
Because so many people, myself included, we wait for so long and we just complain and we
Yeah,
let this pain take over. I really like the way that you define pain, and I would love for you to share that and kind of how we can reframe our mindset around that.
sure. So first is nobody comes to us for pain. It's the best way they know how to communicate their problem. You just described it yourself. You wait and try these other things and try. I had a toothache 2 weeks ago. I'm like, this is almost definitely a cavity, but fuck it. I'm gonna ride this thing and see if it goes away before I go to the dentist's
Right.
office. I'm the same way. We actually don't reach out for help until what we're experiencing is costing us part of our life. We come for the restoration of that part of our life and for the removal of the possibility that any more of our life gets eroded. That's what people actually come for, not the pain that they're in. If people came for pain, they'd come the day that they had it. Follow me?
Following.
Now, to define pain for you, I need to define three other terms too. And the reason why I have to do that is because you say it hurts, I say it hurts. We're not necessarily feeling the same thing. I've laid on a massage table, gotten a massage, and said, "Oh, that hurts." They've said, "Do you want me to stop?" And I said, "No, like that. I need that. Stay right there, please." So, what makes that different than my knee hurts when I'm running? How do I know that I don't need that too? So, we needed to come up with some terms. Insult is what we call the subconscious intake of stimulus. That means as you're sitting in that chair right now, the atmosphere is bombarding you with atoms and you don't even notice it. Subconscious. The moment it becomes conscious and you shift your position, it's irritation. You've now felt something that caused you to change something, whether the position that you're sitting in, your lifestyle, medications that you're on, a surgical intervention, whatever it is, no matter how severe, it drove an adaptation. Follow me?
Following.
That doesn't mean it hurts. Pain is the negative emotion associated with that irritation. It's the decision that I don't like this. That's pain. It's made worse by uncertainty because if I have pain and I don't know where it's coming from, it's scarier than I have pain and I do know where it's coming from. The person who's never gotten a migraine before is in a panic the first time that they get a migraine. The person who suffers from migraines knows what to do the second the first symptom comes on. Follow the difference there?
Yes, sir.
An injury is the last phase of all of this. An injury is just a decision to stop doing whatever it was that you were doing previously that caused the negative emotion. That's why when a coach says, you hurt or you injured, the coach is saying is, are you deciding to stop? That's an injury. Now, those four things are on the table. Now, what we tell our clients in active life is you're going to have irritation. Irritation drives adaptation, good or bad. We need that. So here's how we decide if what you're going through is something you should continue going through or you should stop. We need to take something very subjective and turn it into something as objective as we possibly can.
Mm.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, 1 being the best. If it's less than a 5 out of 10 for discomfort, keep going. You're fine. Probably. If it's getting better with every rep or as you go, then it's not going to get better with rest. You're good. Keep going. If as soon as you stop doing the thing that you're doing, so I have a little bit of tendinopathy in my brachialis muscle, which lives underneath my biceps, right? So this morning I was doing bicep curls to start to break down that tendon issue. It really hurt. It was uncomfortable. But as soon as I stopped, that discomfort went away. We're good. We didn't do any further damage. If you snap, if you tear a muscle, you know it hurts. If you stop, the discomfort goes away, you're fine. And then finally, the next day and the day after that, you wake up and there's no focal discomfort. I can't point and say it hurts right here. There's no bruising. We're good. That was a therapeutic dose of whatever you did the day before. Do it again. So now what happens is people who've been experiencing discomfort doing certain things, let's say your knee hurts, and whenever you squat, you feel some discomfort with it. And you're getting this patellar discomfort. Just gonna stop squatting. Well, you might need to squat to overcome that patellar discomfort. You need to know how much discomfort to tolerate. Otherwise, you're going to avoid the thing you need to do to get better. Hope that was an acceptable answer to a question you probably
No,
expected to get a short one from.
no. I appreciate that, and thank you for all the detail there because I'll take myself as an example. Where I had torn ACL, both meniscus and LCL playing football in college. So
Okay.
did a real number on it.
Wide
And
receiver?
safety.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was sophomore year, week before the season started. I come in on a safety blitz, wrap up our running back in the backfield, and we're in uppers. Like I just
Mhm.
wrap him up, and then just plant my knee.
Yep.
Felt the pop, knew I was done. Um, but ever since then, it's not like I'm in pain. It just doesn't feel it doesn't feel like the other one.
Did you have surgery?
I did. I
Did you
had
have
surgery.
rehab?
I did.
Did you have return to sport rehab? No.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, yeah.
So you have surgery.
Yeah.
And then after an ACL surgery, they're going to put you in that in a knee brace.
Mhm.
They want you moving, but not too much in the beginning, and then they're going to get you moving a lot after that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the movement that they're going to have you do is going to be in the sagittal plane,
Mhm.
and the knee's a hinge joint, so that's fine. But you tore your LCL,
Mhm.
which is going to control. For people who don't know, imagine getting tackled from the inside of your leg and your foot staying in the ground. That's a really good way to actually tear your LCL.
Yeah, that's how it went like this and
Yeah,
knew
inside
out
to
like that.
outside.
Inside
It
to outside.
it
Right.
protects the knee from separating on the outside. If you didn't start doing drills that started with like depth drops from 4 inches, that now you have to stabilize yourself, standing on a foam pad and catching and receiving balls in various directions, cone drills, all these things starting at low skill and moving up to high, or low intensity, moving up to high intensity. If you didn't build intentional strength and time under under tension in the lateral part of the leg through frontal range or through frontal plane movement, you're always going to feel instability there. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have it, but what could be missing is proprioception,
What is that?
your body understanding where it is in space. So when you've torn a ligament and that ligament has to be surgically repaired, think of your brain as having to re-understand there's a ligament there. It was torn. The new one that got put in is not the one that was there in the first place.
Right.
We have to relearn the relationship between the muscles, the bones, the cartilage, the tendons, the ligaments, the brain, all of this stuff. So we need to put that tissue under pressure. And when I say pressure, I mean like game time pressure in a variety of different ways so that you can relearn how to use it.
Hmm. So I went through all the rehab. I came back and that was my sophomore year of college.
Mhm.
My junior year, it was like 2 weeks before, no, probably like a month before the season started, and I felt like invincible. I felt I was hitting like PRs in the gym, deadlift, squat, like all this kind of stuff. And then one day I am just walking and like after the gym, like I'm leaving the gym, and all of a sudden knee just so sore, like I
Mhm.
couldn't run on it, I couldn't lift for like 2 weeks,
You
and
fill
then
up with fluid.
yeah, exactly, and but then it went down, and I never had to get my knee drained or anything like that. Like I knew a lot of people who
Mhm.
had knee injuries, they had to get it drained. I never had to get it drained, but that whole season, and then I started, wearing the knee brace and things like that, and I ended up having a L4, L5 herniation in my disc
Mhm.
on the same side. So I don't know if that could have played a
Maybe,
role or
but you're playing
anything.
football. Could have
Right,
been anything.
right, exactly. But after that season, I feel like the knee felt strong. My whole senior season, and then my whole senior season, I trained crazy hard. I got into like training fascia and like doing all these other kind of things, which it felt really strong. And then after my senior year, I got into running, and now I don't run that much anymore. Obviously, I had my heart thing, so
Mhm.
I haven't been doing much of that. But every time I would run, I would be fine while I was running. But when I wouldn't be running, I would get this like crazy pain, like in the patella right here,
Mhm.
right? So, and I've had a lot of people who reach out to me. They have kind of similar issues, like they don't have any trouble while they're doing a certain activity, but it's more so like after, or if I'm just like walking around, like oh, okay, knee pain, I got this knee stiffness or
Mhm.
whatnot, right? So what do you categorize that as? Because it's like pain, like is it an injury? Do I need to go to a physical therapist? Like,
No.
yeah,
So let me start here. Shameless plug. Those people can all reach out to us at Active Life RX and we'll
that's
talk it
yeah,
through.
absolutely.
We'll either help you with a thought process to take care of yourself, or we'll actually tell you should become a client and we'll help you do it. What you're describing, I can't tell you exactly what it is because I think that's probably one of the biggest problems with internet fitness is, oh, dude, that's tendon issue. Totally. Yeah, we can fix that. Who fucking knows? I have no idea. We have a million questions to ask you and we don't diagnose. But so I would urge you to start thinking about it differently. Most people are looking for a diagnosis. What is it? What structure is it? What is it? Is it a itis or is it an osis? Is it torn? Is it just inflamed? Like, what do I need to do?
Oh, itis, osis. What's the difference between that?
Itis is inflammation. Osis is degeneration. So
Okay.
if you can imagine, like a twine, like a rope,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
imagine a rope that you just take a knife and you start to fray the outside.
Mhm.
Um, that's what inflammation would look like. If you, that's itis. If you took that same rope and you just kind of started to untangle it so that it was loose in there, that's a good representation of what degeneration looks like. Degeneration often happens as a result of inflammation. So you can have tennis elbow or patellar tendonitis for a while, and then the inflammation goes away, but the degeneration is left behind. And you still treat it, you still handle it as if it was an inflammatory condition. But the reality is they need the opposite kind of care. An inflammatory condition needs rest. A degenerative condition needs load going through it, especially as it pertains to a tendon. So anyone who's told you they have tendonitis and it's been more than like 6 weeks, probably not. They probably don't. And they'll notice because it used to be that when they used it, it got worse. Like writing with a pencil would make things worse. Now it hurts more at rest. It hurts more when they use it out of nowhere when everything is cold. But after they've been using it for a while, it's better. That's not inflammation. That's degeneration. It needs load going through it. Does that
Got
answer
it.
your question?
Yeah, 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 that makes sense. I didn't mean to deviate you
No,
from
it's
your
fine.
answer
I know
there.
where we were before.
Yeah, because
So,
yeah, going back to
so,
this.
so, so people want a diagnosis.
Sure.
So what happens is when you start looking for a diagnosis, you start thinking about singular problem sets as if that's how the body ends up in trouble. And it's not. We're a system from your mind all the way down to your pinky toe. We're all interconnected. So when we look at someone who, like you, who's dealing with this thing in your knee, or these people who are listening to you, we're not going to think about what tissue might it be because we're not treating you like a doctor would. We're not a medical company. What we're going to do is we're going to learn about your habits. We're going to learn about your nutrition, your sleep, your stress, the way you exercise, what makes it feel better, what makes it feel worse, and then we're going to evaluate you. Where do you have full range of motion? Where do you have limited range of motion? Where do you have too much range of motion? Where do you have an asymmetry of range of motion from one side to the other, or from one side of the joint to the other? Where do you have strength? Where do you have strength balance? Where do you have strength imbalance? So, for example, with a lot of football players, for example, they're taught squat, 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 squat. And then when we test them, we're like, well, how much can you squat on your left leg? Let's say in a front rack step up above your knee height. Don't know. What about your right leg? Don't know. Well, what do you think we need to do if you told me I have left knee pain and I can do 18 step ups on my left with 150 pounds and I can do 4 on my right with 150 pounds? Which knee's the problem?
Right.
The right. But which one's been hurting?
The left.
The left. So why would the left knee be hurting if the right one's the one that's problematic?
Overcompensation.
Could be doing too much work. So what happens is when we start to look at a single structure and say it hurts here, what is it? Then we go to a doctor, a physical therapist, or a trainer or whatever. This is where I have a problem. They evaluate it. Yep, Dom, it's inflamed. We got to do this medication or take some rest. Okay, got it. Or it's degenerated. We got to rebuild it. Great. And what happens? You feel great. You go back to the field. You feel like you're untouchable. You're taking heads, right? And then it comes back differently, but on the same side. What the fuck is this? Why do I have this again? Oh, let's rehab it again. The whole time, it hasn't been the problem like. So we need to start looking at the body more as a whole than at the problem as if it lives on its own.
Okay, I like that. And around this too, I mean, there's a mindset. There's a mindset
Mhm.
piece that goes into all of this too. And we were talking a little bit before the show. You were saying it's more than just fitness, and it's more about the mindset, right? Or it's something along those
It's
lines, right?
all about the
So
mindset.
it's all about the mindset. So when you were coming up with the idea for active life and this practice, and you wrote this course, and you're training people on the protocols that you guys use to work with
Mhm.
clients, why or where did you find the mindset piece, and like why do you think that's so important, and how did you then implement that into your practice?
I can share a story that was pivotal in my development of the recognition that this is a mental thing. And when I say it's a mental thing, you got to get strong, you got to get long, you got to get agile. All those things are physical. But in order to do any of them, you need the mental development to know that you need to do them. And you need the mental resiliency to do it when it's uncomfortable. That's what I'm talking about. And then you need to not break down mentally as a result of something being hard that takes a long time. That's all mental. We were hosting a seminar one time, and a reporter came out to write an article about what we were doing for the publication that she works for. She asked if she could bring a friend. I said, sure, bring a friend. So the friend comes to the seminar where we were teaching coaches to evaluate movement and strength. And they were doing it both as the client and as the coach. So they got some role play. Her friend did everything in the movement, passed everything with flying colors. Came time for the strength. She's like, I'm going to sit this out. So why are you going to sit this out? Well, I have a herniated disc in my back, and the doctor told me never to lift more than 55 pounds again. I said, well, how'd they come up with 55 pounds? Now, this is a young 20s girl. She's like, I don't know. I said, why not 54? Why not 56? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, why don't we do this? Well, if you're comfortable in any room, this is the one. I'm not putting any pressure on you. But if you'd like, you can participate. We can stop at 55 pounds if you want. Okay. So she gets up to 55 pounds on a deadlift. I was like, hey, I have change plates. You want to do 55 and a half? Like it was not a big jump. It was 55 and a half pounds. And her mental anguish about that decision over a half pound was insane. Finally, she says, sure, let's do it. 55 and a half, no problem. Like, want to go 56? Fine, 56. By the end of that session, she did 205 for 8. Less than 2 years later, she was a finalist for the United States skeleton team in the Olympics.
What?
And in order to make the skeleton team, you have to do, I believe it's a 3-rep max back squat and a 1-rep max power clean as a part of their combine. And this chick was a finalist for the Olympics.
That is absurd.
Mm-hmm. So someone had cast a spell on her that was 55 pounds is your story for the rest of your life. Why? Where did that, why? She didn't need to be bound by that. And so as soon as I saw this woman that fixated on a number, I was like, this is a problem. And there are so many people nowadays who are like you, young and healthy, 20 years ago. They played football in college. They envisioned themselves being all conference by the time they graduated, all American, whatever, pro. They had a knee injury. And that all came to a stop. And now they're 45, 50 years old and they still don't dance at weddings because of that, the knee thing. So, well, dude, that's just a story you're telling yourself. And I can't help you until you decide that you should be able to dance at a wedding. But the second that you decide you should, we got you.
That is an insane story.
I have many stories like that.
Okay, so kind of staying on this topic of pain here, because I'm listening to this myself, and I'm sure a lot of people who are going to listen to this as well have this story that they're telling themselves about something. It might be about pain, it might be about an injury, but it might be about anything in life. Like one of the I hate hearing people say, "Oh, like I'm bad at writing," or
Right.
I'm
Mhm.
I'm bad at this," or "I suck at this, I suck at that," right? So how do we break free of that as a society? Like we're so chained, we're enchained, ball and chain to these things. How do you think we can break out of
I
that?
think it's so much easier than people make it out to be.
How so?
Surround yourself with people who won't tolerate that from you. If you and I went out to dinner and you picked up the menu and you were like, ah, this dyslexia, man, just can't read this menu. The first time you said it, I'd probably be like, you okay? You'd say, yeah, it's just something I've been dealing with my whole life. I get through it. Okay. If every time we went out, you did that, or you're driving in the car and it tells you turn left at whatever street, you're like, how am I supposed to read that? Dyslexic. I'm either going to help you decide to stop doing that or we're going to stop hanging out. And I'm going to give you a lot of chances. And I'm going to try a bunch of different ways to help you because I believe that that's what good friends do. And so I think that unfortunately, the average person in society right now feels like a victim, but they're not. So you have to stop surrounding yourself with people in society who are average. You know, your podcast is called the Pure Ambition Podcast. There's no way in hell that you are not better for the interviews that you've done. You've put yourself in the room with people, I don't know how many times, who are going to, like, if you said something that was self-deprecating that you didn't deserve to say and that wasn't funny, I would call you on it, on air, and then again off air, and in a productive way. And I think that if we can surround ourselves with people like that more often, we don't risk becoming that.
This is one that people might get triggered by this, but it's one that I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day who constantly is making the excuse of the reason why like he he can't clean the dishes or do his laundry or put things away or just do anything is like it's just my ADHD, my ADHD,
Mhm.
right? Like for someone like that, because I and it's not just that person, it's multiple people who I've heard this.
Mhm.
How do they then break
It's
free of that?
convenient. It's a very convenient thing to say.
It's just like is it just an excuse?
I would never minimize something to being just an excuse
Mm,
because to me, an excuse is I'm late because I hit traffic. That's a legitimate excuse. The truth is, I should have left earlier and I hit traffic. Both are true. So for a person who has ADHD, it is hard to do the dishes because they don't like doing the dishes. They don't want to focus on it. And they do have ADHD. What if there was a gun to your head? Do you do them just once? Let's say you do. Okay. You do them just once. All that I'm suggesting is that you've proven you can. So now what needs to happen is you need a reason that is as important, that is more important, I should say, than the story you've been telling yourself to do the thing that the story is about. So the gun to your head was a strong enough reason to scrub your dishes. What else is? That's what you need. And I don't know exactly what that story is for every person. It's unique for each of us. But that's where all of this starts.
I want to kind of transition a little bit to a word that I thought of when just going over your content, listening to some of your stuff is just resilience. And I know that you built this company up after tragedies that happened from Hurricane Sandy, kind of wiping everything that you had out and then
Mhm.
having to restart from the ground up. Where does that resiliency come from?
My parents. I grew up being told you can do whatever you put your mind to. And I was dumb enough to believe them. And so eventually, when you believe something long enough, it becomes a part of you. And I learned right around 2016 that it actually wasn't true. I wasn't achieving anything I put my mind to. And then I learned by the end of 2017 that the truth was I wasn't actually putting my mind to anything. I just thought I was because I was always able to just outwork things. Like there was a problem, outwork it. Problem, outwork it. Down to getting my wife to marry me. Like she wanted to break up with me after her sorority formal in college because she lived in Maryland and I lived in New York. And she's like, I don't date long distance. And I was like, no, we're not breaking up. Yeah. And we had a whole conversation about it. I was like,
I love that.
I was like, we are not, you're saying you want to break up because one day we might need to break up as a result of distance being a problem. I'm saying we're not going to break up because one day we might need to break up. We'll just break up if we need to break up.
What was her response to that?
She was silent. And now she has 3 kids with me with another one on the way. So I've always been able to outwork my problems. And I found myself in 2016 working 80 plus hour weeks with more and more problems flying onto my plate. And that's when I realized I'm not actually putting myself into anything. What they said is still true. I still would not allow myself to believe that if I put my mind to something, I couldn't achieve it. And so I just started looking at what am I not putting my mind into? And I had help. I hired a mentor who was great. And it was, what are you not putting your mind into that you're doing that is causing you not to be able to put your mind into what you are doing? Eliminated almost everything from my life, put my mind into stuff. And then here we are talking in this podcast studio 5 years later, 6 years later.
Okay, so what was the business that you had before Sandy, and then where did you go from there?
Which one? This is
Which
on business 9 and 10.
Which one?
You're talking about the businesses that were operational. Yeah.
Yeah,
I owned a CrossFit gym. I owned a rehab clinic.
gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay, both wiped out from there.
So they were wiped out in Sandy. Yes, at the same time.
Okay, so taking that next step towards resiliency, something you can't control,
Mhm.
something you're staring down, but you can't control what happened to you, but you can control the next step that you take, and you control the direction that you go from there.
Mhm.
What was the mindset that you had to develop, and what were the next steps that you took from that?
That's a really good question. It's a hard one because I had the right mindset. I am for lack of better words to describe it, given the current context of the world, I'm a wartime general. I'm the guy you want during war, chaos. I'm not the best at peace. So that's chaos. And when my back is against the wall, I'm coming out punching. I'm not shelling up. I was explaining to somebody this week, um, and she's a yogi, so it was like the obvious yin and yang. I was like, look, one of my problems that I've had to overcome is that when it comes to fight or flight, I don't have flight. I don't know how to flight. It's just fight. Um, and so when you're in chaos, that's good. You don't have to be delicate. You don't have to be nuanced. You don't have to manage people differently. It's just people want someone to tell them what to do because they're at a loss. And they want to know that that person has confidence and that person knows what to do. Even if they don't, they want to think they do. Right? That's me. I can do that. COVID was great. I was great in COVID. What I needed to learn, the mindset I needed to develop was how to overcome the energy spend of leading differently during good times. That's what I needed to learn. That's the mindset that I didn't have. So I get a lot of credit for coming out of things like Hurricane Sandy, the lawsuit that preceded it, and COVID. But I thrive there. I don't need credit for that. I don't even necessarily feel like I deserve credit. I don't have to work on anything to get through those. Where I feel like I deserve credit that I don't expect from anybody else, but that I give to myself is that I'm good now in good times too. And that took a lot of work.
So you to cap it off there. My next thing I wanted to ask was, do you think that you struggle when times are good? Because you said you thrive in chaos, you thrive during the war, but I know people who when things are and I've been like this myself too, is like when things are going good, you're just like looking for something bad to happen. so that you can
So,
like fix, so that you can fix a
or
problem
creating
or
something.
create
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
So I want to answer this really accurately and specifically. Struggle? No. Have to work harder emotionally? Yes. Uh Again, I want to be told what to do and I want to tell people what to do. It's not that I think I'm better than anybody and so I should tell them what to do. I want a coach telling me, go left. I don't want a coach asking me, which way do you think you should go? Um, and I understand that a coach can't always do that. Right. And so for a long time, I didn't take well to coaching that didn't do that. Now I am, I have struggled for a long time. So I don't have to struggle anymore. I just have to recognize, okay, this is more energy expensive for me. That's okay. Like this is where other people quit. So this is where you push. That's what it is now.
So when you hired a mentor, did you look for one that was going to to tell you what to do rather than, hey, what are you thinking here? Like, do you want to go left or do you want to go right? Because
I
I told you I work with Chase,
mhm,
and I was looking for somebody to tell me what to do, and every time I talk to him, he makes me think about
mhm.
the direction that I want to go, and I'm like, damn it, Chase, like just tell me what to do sometimes. So yeah, I'm curious.
I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know that this is what I struggled with until this mentor who I ended up finding taught it to me.
Got it.
This mentor I found, I had to move things around in the business to be able to work with him. I couldn't afford him. And the first thing he said is, if you want to be more successful, you have to become a better person. I was like, what are you talking about, man? I'm great. I treat everybody exactly how I want to be treated. And he was like, yeah, you do, but you're a fucking psychopath. And people don't want to be treated like a fucking psychopath does. I was like, oh shit, that's true. And he didn't mean it in a negative way. He meant like, I am a dog on a bone. I'm going to chew this thing and you're not going to take it out of my mouth. I am going where I am going. And you can either help me get there faster or you can get out of the way or you can get run over. Those are your choices. That's how I operate. And most people don't. He's like, you have to understand, for some people, if you said, do you want to go to the movies tonight? Telling you no is too much conflict for them. So instead of saying no, they will say, maybe, can you call me later? And then they'll ghost. It's like that drives you crazy. The thought of saying, I don't want to go to the movies tonight for somebody else is terrifying. He's like, if you want to be more successful, you have to meet each of them where they are. I was like, okay, how do I do that? He's like, you got to ask them. I said, how do I ask people where they are? And he's like, now you're asking better questions. And so I spent the next, I'm still doing it, right? That's since 2016, learning how people want to be spoken to and then speaking to them in a way that they are more likely to hear it, take it, and do something with it that's productive.
Would you say the biggest struggle that you're currently facing right now as a business owner, as a podcast host, as a father, something in your life that you,
What is my biggest struggle?
maybe not your biggest struggle, but where do you think you have the biggest room for improvement?
Ah, Fool. I think aggressive patience is where I have the most room for improvement. I was telling my mentor this morning, different guy, both great. Um, Something that's become apparent to me that is equal parts inspiring and frustrating is I didn't deserve what I have now 3 years ago. And I badly wanted what I have now 3 years ago. And I felt as though I deserved it. Now I feel like I don't have what I deserve. I feel like I've progressed past the guy who owns the business that we're currently doing. We should be at Active Life doing bigger things faster, but I haven't been that person long enough. And so I have to be that person long enough. And then the company will come fill the space that I can hold. And by the time the company gets there, I'll be the guy who can do more than what the company is capable of doing in the moment. And I'll be frustrated again. So I know that's the future I'm gifted or doomed, however you want to look at it, because I'm going to keep on working at getting better. So what I need to improve is my ability to recognize that moment in the moment and enjoy it instead of looking for the next one.
What's your why in life? Why do you do what you do?
There are a few things I really want to do that are really important to me. Number one is I want to leave this world better than I came into it. I genuinely I see problems all over the place. And the ultimate success of active life is not becoming a multi-billion dollar company. It's not helping millions of people get out of pain without going to the doctor, missing the gym. It's not developing coaches to make a career. It's none of that. It's not opening 1,000 locations. It's proving that the best way to be sustainably successful is to make people the most important part of your business. And I believe that through our success, larger companies, the Googles, the Apples, the you name them in the world, will look at, oh, we don't need to automate and eliminate people. We need to automate to augment people. That's a legacy I plan to leave. My purpose is much bigger than that. You know, my why is much bigger than that. I think the most important thing I do every day is take care of my health and my mental health. I think the second most important thing I do every day is be an incredible husband to my wife. I think the third most important thing I do every day is become a model that my kids can look up to and aspire to either be more like or to learn from to be even better. Next is active life. So all of those things are encompassed in my why and my purpose.
I love how you put yourself there first and then that pours over into everything else
Mhm.
because I think too many people try to put everything else first and say that they're selfless, but in reality, they're just not really focusing on themselves and then they can't be the best for those other areas of life. And even though they might be showing up, they might not be showing up as the best version of themselves.
It's the accidental apologist that you're talking about. They're not intending to apologize for anything, but they're apologizing all the time. It's I felt this for a while. I grew up in a great family. I was like, man, my story's not inspiring. I didn't come from nothing. So I held it in for a while. Like, I don't want to tell people like my dad was successful. I had unconditional love. They coached me. My dad coached me in sports. My mom ran the camps I worked at. Like, I don't want to tell people that because then they're going to think that like, oh, they can't do it because they didn't have that. Well, fuck that. I had that and I'm better for it. And I got a head start. And instead of squandering it, I'm doing something with it. And I'm proud of that. You know, in today's society, I'm a white, Jewish, straight, proud American who's married to a hot wife, who has 3 beautiful kids, all healthy, a 4th kid on the way. I'm not supposed to be proud of those things by today's standards for some fucking reason. I am. I'm proud of all of them. And I think that for people who struggle to put themselves first because they think all these other things come before them, there's a level of acceptance that like you are who you are and you're either going to be successful because of it or you're not. So you need to lean into it that people have or don't have. And I wish everyone had it.
Mm. So for people who are listening, like I've had those points. I've had ups and downs in my life, but when things are going smoothly, I'm always like, Where, where's my next L? When's the next, when's the next bad thing gonna happen? We're always looking for that. Um, and I saw a hilarious. There's this guy I can't remember his name, but he's a comedian, and he had this bit where it was like, you ever go to church and you listen to people's testimony and you're like, man, their testimony's so good. I wish I was addicted to crack. Like, like, talking about like everybody wants to have this like really everybody loves like a revival story,
Mhm.
like somebody who comes back from something. So, do you feel it sounds like you do feel content with your story and you can introduce these things like fitness, like building a business, like these other things that are going to strain you and stress you and cause you to work for things in life versus somebody else who maybe had a great upbringing, but they never like pursue anything that's difficult that is of real substance.
I'm beyond content.
Yeah.
I'm well beyond content. I'm inspired every morning to be me. That's
Oh,
that's that's the truth.
that.
And um I don't compare myself to people who had the opportunities and squandered them. I do compare myself to people who are doing things that I need to learn how to do better. I compare myself to them all the time. I look at the way you put out content and I'm like, damn, I gotta channel some fucking Dom Fusco into my production because this guy's doing it all the time.
I
You're
appreciate
what are you,
that.
24, 25?
24.
You're so far ahead. And that's awesome. And I'm like, I need to start following that lead more often in the area where I'm not strong. That's the comparison that I do. I look at the Tom Billius of the world and I'm like, the guy has everything he wants, and 97% of what he's doing right now, you don't even see. He's building a way for kids to learn through video games behind the scenes at Impact Theory. No one even sees it. Like that guy's doing shit that I need to learn how to do. I went and mentored with Jesse Itzler.
Legend.
Legend. He's the second guy to call me a psychopath, by the way. I promise you I would tell you that story
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah.
We were in his basement and there were a few of us in the room and he was talking about like people, like the reasons why they're going to be successful in the room. And he's like, can I ask you guys something? And they're like, yeah. He's like, does anybody have any doubt at all that this guy points at me, he's like, is going to be fucking successful? He's a fucking psychopath. There's no way this guy is not going to be successful. And I was like, it was such a feather in my cap that I started to wear psychopath as like a point of pride.
Mm.
And I needed to tone it back a little bit. But that's the story. The point I'm making is I do compare myself to these guys because they're putting more value into the world than I am. And I need to learn how to put more value into the world, how to play bigger. But I have, you know, my tragedy stories are Hurricane Sandy. Nobody in my family died as a result of Hurricane Sandy. I got displaced for 9 months. I had to restart my business without insurance money. It sucked. But if I'm being honest, in the moment, it didn't bother me. Like I was just like, yeah, next man up, let's go. I told you earlier, that's where I thrive. Um, what was harder for me was having a company that was profiting almost $100,000 a month, not knowing what to do with all of the money and realizing I needed to build out a very legitimate team if I wanted to continue to be able to do that and grow.
Mm.
That was way harder for me, way more traumatic than Hurricane Sandy. But nobody wants to hear that story.
Dude, I think the one thing that I've taken away from you in this is to just own your story. Like everybody wants to compare themselves to somebody else or listen to other people's stories and try to come up with this, try to put themselves in situations, try to do all these things that are inauthentic, right? But like each one of our stories are so authentic and things happen to us for a reason. And if we can just own them, not have like this I should be in this situation because this is my story, or this is my situation, and just own it and just keep taking that next step forward, then we're eventually going to get to where we want to go in life. So I think that's my biggest takeaway from this. Dude, this was awesome. I'm excited to swap seats here
Mhm.
and sit on the other side of the mic. But my last question for you, question that I ask all of my guests. This is the Pure Ambition podcast. I'm curious, when you hear those two words together, what does that mean to you and how does it apply to your daily life?
It is my daily life. It is my daily life. I want to be the best fucking dad on the planet. And I don't think that means spending 24 hours a day with your kids. I want to be the best husband on the planet. I want to be the most transformative business owner of our generation. I might come up short of something, but not due to poor planning. So to me, that's how I wake up every day. That's what that means to me.
That's epic, bro. Dude, I love that. This is an incredible conversation. If people want to check out more of your content, your podcast, your content, active life, where can they connect with you?
head to Dr. Sean Pastuch on Instagram and give me a follow. All of my accounts are linked from there. And when you follow me, you should expect I will send you a DM thanking you for following my account, asking you what I did to earn your attention so that I can do more of it. Stop being surprised when I do what I say I'm going to do.
Do people ever think you're a bot?
No, because I do a voice memo and I use their name.
Dude, I love that. I remember the first time we connected, you sent back a video message, and I was like, let's go. 'Cause anytime I send a text out on Instagram, people are like, all right, VA versus I'm like, and then I said like a picture of myself or video of myself. So I appreciate that. I appreciate all you do. You're a hell of a dude. And I really appreciate you just opening the studio up to me today and just for being your authentic self.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. I wanted to give you all a heads up too that I launched a free community on the Upspace app where you can join, ask me questions, connect with like-minded individuals, follow my 4-week running and strength training program that has some dedicated mobility sessions in there as well, so that we can all optimize our health and fitness together. So if you're interested, head over to the App Store, download the Upspace app, and join the Pure Ambition community today. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.